Hey, what's up, everybody? If it looks like I'm tired and sad, it's because I am. And today we're going to be talking about some weird news. Something that apparently gets everybody riled up. It happened with Resident Evil. Now it's happening with Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's yellow paint in video games. Now, there's nothing particularly wrong with yellow paint in general, but when you're slapping it on things in a video game to make a context clue, essentially like this is an interactable, suddenly people have issues with it. Now, obviously, a game showing you what you can interact with in a video game is nothing new. We've seen it in many, many video games, especially modern video games, but even the original Final Fantasy VII had an option at least to show you what was interactable in the environment. And what makes that different from yellow paint? Well, apparently everything to some folks. To me, I just want to make this very clear. I'm not one of those people that has a very strong opinion about it one way or another, but it is something to be said about what it does to immersion in video games. So let's go back to a more common way of showing off a hint or an interactable. A lot of times the way that game developers do it is that they make arrows or whatever seem like it's part of the game's user interface. It's HUD. The same sort of visual style that would show you how much health you have left in a video game would match that of a cue to say, hey, you can climb this ladder or something. But when you make it something that's in the game world itself and it looks like someone actually took a paintbrush and started slapping it on a stone ledge in a place where it clearly doesn't belong, I get it. I do understand, like, at that point, it starts raising questions that wouldn't be there if it was very clear that this is a separation between world immersion and game design. This is something where it's trying to implement game design into its world immersion, and instead it becomes something that's way more distracting than if you had just gone the other way. Does it ruin a video game at the end of the day? No. Does it make it slightly worse? And is that understandable? Yes. I don't think that developers should be going this route. Obviously, you can do things to make your environments look interactable without making it super distracting, like we've seen in games like Assassin's Creed, for example. But again, it's all about trying to pull that off in an immersive sort of way. And when you slap in a bright yellow swash of paint, it suddenly is not so believable. It was more believable, in fact, in the Resident Evil franchise where this thing got its start. Actually, I don't even know if this is where it got started. I'd be very curious to know the history of yellow paint in video games, but certainly in Resident Evil 4 Remake, and I think maybe Resident Evil 2 Remake. I could be wrong about that. This is all off the cuff, folks, so please bear with me. It shows you what boxes you can break with slaps of yellow paint, and you could say, maybe the Ganados did that to sort of let each other know stuff that they stored around the village or something like that. It's not highly believable, but you can try to make sense of it. But in this image here that a lot of people have a problem with Final Fantasy VII Remake, these are just stone cliffs. The likelihood that someone would go through the trouble of painting it yellow is just insanely unlikely. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So, it is kind of strange. It's kind of strange they went that route, especially considering that I played the demo for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I think this is the first time I actually said this correctly. I think the entire video I've been saying remake, and I'm not going to fix that at this point. But they have a mix of both the type of style that I was talking about earlier and the one that you're seeing in this image. So, yeah. Do I think they should change it? Yes. Are people on the internet hyperbolic and they have to be hyperbolic to get anybody's attention? Yes. I can understand both sides of the frustration. We're clowning on people that clearly are taking this way too seriously, and I think to their credit, it's just how the nature of the internet is. We all have to be hyperbolic, screaming at the top of our lungs for anybody to listen at this point, because at that point, it gets people's brains to go like, whoa, this is something I have to pay attention to. And I think that the yellow paint in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is just one of those many, many examples you will see if you ever even spend an hour on Twitter. I guess everyone's entitled to their opinion, so I'm not gonna be out here saying they can't feel outraged by this. I will just say that my personal opinion with respect to other people's is I somewhat agree, but I'm not going to be raging about it anytime soon. but it's worth talking about, which is why I made this video. All right, guys, take care.